This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Heather Sells. A robust jobs report out today suggests the economy is stronger than some experts had feared. The Labor Department says that employers added 224,000 jobs in June. The gain is more than economists had predicted and follows weaker job growth in May of just 72,000 jobs. It also marks a record 105 straight months of job growth for the U.S. economy. Also noted, the unemployment rate ticked up slightly from 3.6% to 3.7%. Analysts suggest that's because more people have begun searching for work. The strong jobs report will have implications for the Federal Reserve, which will decide later this month whether or not to cut interest rates to bolster the economy. And here now to explain more of this is Timothy Descher with the Washington, D.C.-based Heritage Foundation. Tim, thanks for joining us. After weaker job growth in May, many economists weren't expecting a lot for June. They were concerned that trade tensions and slowing global growth may be slowing U.S. hiring. So what is your take on this job news today?
Well, Heather, thanks so much for having me on. Happy 4th of July. And I think if there was a headline for today's report, it's doom and gloom goes boom. And that is exactly what we're seeing here. I mean, over 60,000 jobs, we shattered expectations, the quote unquote experts, as they predicted. And so this is a really, really good thing. As you mentioned, the unemployment rate ticked up slightly, but also more people went back into the workforce. And that's just a sign that there is opportunity out there, 7.5 million open jobs. Also, take a look at this, too. I mean, the wages have continued to rise, and that's an incredible thing, considering that we also have all this money from the tax cuts that are coming in. People are earning more, and they're seeing a reason to get back in the job force. So this is a really good report. It's really good news. Any
particular areas for job growth right now? Who is hiring?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, this was a particularly good report. Construction was strong, 21,000 jobs. Transportation and warehousing, almost 24,000 jobs. And even manufacturing, which is incredible given the tariffs that are up 17,000 as well. And you mentioned that earlier. With tariffs coming on, we continue to monitor that. We don't think that that's actually a smart way of doing this. We want to see sustained job growth continue to happen. And so what we continue to say is let's let the tax cuts and the deregulation speak for themselves, but let's get out of the way of those crucial industries like manufacturing. And instead of 17,000, let's get 50,000, 60,000 every month.
I want to ask you, too, about the Federal Reserve. A lot of people are talking about that and what it's going to do with interest rates later this month. How do you think this jobs report may or may not influence the Fed's thinking on whether to cut interest rates?
Well, look, it's really difficult to tell what that's going to mean for the jobs report because we've been going back and forth on this for a long time. You've heard things out of the White House criticizing the Fed. You've heard the Fed push back a little bit. You've heard them scale back. All of that is to consider. But I think what the real story here is that when you do pro-growth policy, job creators respond to it. And so that's going to continue to be the driving force behind their decision, whether or not to raise the rate or to cut.
And I want to ask you briefly, too, you've written that this moment of growth and prosperity should encourage Congress to curb out-of-control spending and work on our national debt. Any sign that that might be happening?
Well, we know who's in control of the House right now. That would be the Democrats. Liberals are driving that. And we also see that many on the right, many Republicans, are not willing to do the hard work to cut. And we continue to be the clarion call on Capitol Hill that if we don't get this under control, this is a problem. We should be using this robust economic growth that we're seeing. We should be using this strong jobs market. We should be using all of these great things that are happening to do the hard work, cut spending, and get that deficit and debt under control. It's a huge deal for Americans, and it will end up in the future resulting in wage increases, as Bernie Sanders admitted. Wages will go up on middle-class Americans if we don't get this under control and we keep spending the way the left wants to.
All right. Well, Tim Descher with the Heritage Foundation, some overall good news on this holiday weekend. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Heather.
Many Southern Californians felt an incredible jolt yesterday. That was the largest earthquake since 1999 there. The 6.4 magnitude trembler struck northeast of Los Angeles, and now experts are warning an even bigger one could hit. George Thomas has our report.
Seismologists are warning residents of Southern California to expect more aftershocks following Thursday's massive earthquake.
There is about a 1 in 20 chance that this location will be having an even bigger earthquake within the next few days, that we have not yet seen the biggest earthquake of the sequence.
All units, we are on citywide earthquake mode.
California now under a state of emergency after the largest earthquake in 2 decades hits near the small desert town of Ridgecrest, about 150 miles from Los Angeles.
We lost everything that we have. I have no TVs, I have no dressers, I have nothing.
Surveillance video inside this convenience store capturing the moment shortly after 10:30 in the morning local time when the quake hits, sending employees running for cover and items flying off the shelves. Patients at a local hospital in Ridgecrest forced to evacuate the building after suffering minor injuries.
The computers were flying off onto the ground. The water bottle container was shaking.
The quake so powerful it was picked up on a seismograph in Pennsylvania and left a large crack clear across this highway in Southern Cal. Ben Hood lives in Ridgecrest and said his neighbor's home caught fire after the quake.
Oh my God, those are the tires blowing up on the cars.
Firefighters in Ridgecrest, a town of 28,000 people, scrambled to put out a number of fires.
We have multiple injuries. We've had 2 house fires. We've had small vegetation fires, power lines down, gas leak.
The earthquake lasted about 20 seconds and was felt throughout Los Angeles, as far north as Fresno and as far east as Las Vegas, Nevada. It was even felt in Mexico, where buildings were evacuated in Tijuana. There have been more than 100 aftershocks since. George Thomas, CBN News.
Turning overseas now, a Christian family forced to flee Norway has taken that nation's notorious child welfare agency to the European Court of Human Rights. The court has agreed to hear the case of a Romanian-Norwegian Christian family. In 2015, I'm totally messing it up. Sorry, folks. The Norwegian Child Welfare Agency took the family's 5 children, including a 3-month-old baby, and the children of Marius and Ruth Bodnario were taken because Norwegian officials believed the children were being indoctrinated by their parents' Christian beliefs. International pressure and protests forced the agency to return the children to their parents, who then fled Norway as a family. This case is just one of 8 at the European Court, where the agency is being investigated for taking children from their parents. The agency also took 3 American-born children from their American mother in May after they moved to Norway from Atlanta, Georgia. And CBN News European correspondent Dale Hurd joins us now with more. And Dale, there are 8 of these cases before the European Court right now. That seems like a lot. What's the pattern here?
Well, first, that was unfair to do to you, to slip the Norwegian
word.
It's in fact, I'm having trouble with it. It's Barneverna. What's going on is this is an agency, in my opinion, that's been out of control for years, and it's just bubbling up. I mean, here's an example. You know, we often do stories like this of kids that were taken from Christian families or you know, these kind of parental rights abuses, and it hasn't really caught the eye of big media. Big media has been all over this for years, the abuses of the Norwegian Child Welfare Agency. BBC has done more than one. Australian TV has done this, and there's good reason. There are incredible abuses, and it really makes you wonder what's going on in a country that you would think is so democratic, Norway.
Yeah, and from what I understand, there is a pattern in all of these cases of at least one of the parents not being from Norway. Does that seem to be bearing on these cases?
That is a pattern. In fact, you know, we have the Bodnarios where the mother is Norwegian but the father isn't. There's a suspicion I think, among Norwegian officials that foreigners spank more. This is a big deal in Norway. It's illegal, and if they ever suspect that they're spanking, they're going right in, no matter how happy the kids are. They don't care. But they do it for ridiculous reasons. You know, One mother moved too much, 5 children taken away. Another family, the child acted hungry one day at school. The kids are out. So this kind of stuff.
I want to ask you about this one family in particular. They're taking legal action, but they're taking it after they've left Norway. So what's their story?
Well, they left for good reason because, they had their kids, let's get out of here. But the mother's Norwegian, so they're leaving family behind in Norway. They may want to live in Norway someday, but they've got to settle this with the agency if they ever want to move back. I think also it's a chance to set some precedent and to get the Barnevernet to stop doing this.
What is allowing the Norwegian government to go unchecked with these cases? What gives them the power to do this, with the whole world standing by, so to speak?
I have covered these kind of stories for years in Germany with the Jugendamt going after homeschoolers. And I've asked myself this question. I just think people are not angry enough. Because you notice when the Bodnarios ignited international anger and there were protests around the world, they got their kids back.
Yeah, really interesting. We're hearing, as you mentioned, about these kinds of abduction cases in other countries. Anything that can be done to stop it? I mean, what are you seeing?
I'm preparing a focus piece on this that the folks will see in about a week, and that's one of our main questions is why haven't Norwegian politicians put a stop to this? I think they just wash their hands. I think they just don't, they see it as he said, she said, they don't want to get involved. But when people are angry enough and there's enough protest, Norway's very image conscious, it could be effective.
All right, well, very interesting. Thank you, Dale, I appreciate it. Well, coming up, what archaeologists in Israel have discovered that confirms stories from the Bible. And before we go to break, here is a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
Roman soldiers destroy the Second Temple of Jerusalem. Centuries of eyewitnesses say the temple treasures survived. But where are they?
They went from Jerusalem to Rome, Rome to Carthage, Carthage to Byzantium.
Historians are silent about what happened to it next.
This is a bad omen.
Hosted and narrated by Gordon Robertson.
So does it still exist today?
CBN Documentaries presents a story of mystery.
Where is it?
Calamity. Most of the victims were butchered. And destiny.
The possibility to dig is impossible.
Take a journey to find Treasures of the Second Temple, a CBN Documentaries presentation, coming July 8th.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream. The chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities. The chance to stand on the promises of God. To recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
3 years ago, archaeologists digging in Israel revealed that for the first time ever, they had excavated a Philistine cemetery. Now, a report on the bones that they uncovered has confirmed the origins of the Philistines, one of the key enemies of the biblical Israelites. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has the story.
State-of-the-art DNA testing on the ancient Philistine bones showed they came from Europe more than 3,000 years ago.
We've been able to demonstrate for the first time that the Philistines were immigrants to the region of Philistia.
Ancient Philistia was located along the modern-day southern coast of Israel and Gaza. Archaeologist Daniel Master headed the Leon Levy expedition to Ashkelon.
In the 13th and 12th century, empires collapsed. Indeed, much of civilization collapsed. And when people woke up 100 years later, the world was very different. One of the groups that people noticed were the Philistines.
Master said the DNA confirmed what they already believed.
From the early 20th century, people noticed that the styles of pottery that they were finding in the area called Philistia by the writers of the Hebrew Bible were similar to pottery that was found in Greece just 100 years earlier. And people started to draw the connection that perhaps this pottery indicated some connection between these two groups of people.
Ashkelon was one of 5 big Philistine cities. The Philistines lived there for about 600 years.
The Philistines appear in the Hebrew Bible as one of the great enemies of the Israelites. But where did they come from? In the Bible, there's a mention that the Philistines came from Caphtor. This is a mention in Amos, many centuries after we think the Philistines arrived. This place was probably related to Crete.
The cemetery, discovered in 2013, is dated from the 11th to the 8th century BC.
And how do we tell the story of people who can't speak for themselves, that haven't left behind written texts? We can look at the scraps and the garbage that they've left behind. We can look at what other people said about them during the time period. But the DNA actually gave us an opportunity to let these people speak for themselves.
Archaeologist Adam Aja said the DNA showed that even though the Philistines kept their culture physically, genetically, they eventually blended in with the locals.
The discovery of the cemetery and the analysis of the bones definitively revealed that this population came from away and then slowly integrated into the local population.
The Philistines disappeared during the 6th century BC when the biblical king Nebuchadnezzar conquered the region. He destroyed Ashkelon and other cities at the time, shortly before the Judeans were exiled to Babylon, as described in the Bible. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Up next, how one classroom is helping to prepare Christian candidates to succeed in Washington, D.C.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Running for public office is a big decision, and Christian candidates often face an extra hurdle defending their faith in an increasingly secular world. But as senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon shows us, there is a program in Washington helping to prepare these men and women for the political battle.
Here in the shadow of the U.S. Capitol Dome, Christians from across the country are gathering to learn how to put their faith into action inside America's halls of power.
This is an uphill climb.
Gathered in this glass conference room, Christian men and women considering a run for Congress are getting schooled on potential life as a candidate.
That's what politics is all about.
One lesson, how to stay composed during hostile media interviews.
How do I communicate my faith and my belief in God's word in a way that's not really throwing pearls to the swine, in a way that is drawing people in and not just providing fodder for them to attack.
They're becoming grounded in their biblical worldview, solidifying their political philosophy, and studying the Constitution.
Learning how to speak, with clarity, being able to debate, being able to negotiate.
Benjamin is a fellow at the D. James Kennedy Center for Christian Leadership. Over the course of 3 weeks, he and others get guidance on how to thoughtfully tackle tough issues like gender identity from experts like Ryan Anderson of the Heritage Foundation, an issue on which he says Christian candidates can offer real leadership.
You don't need to be a conservative Christian to have concerns about 5th grade boys being in your daughter's bathroom and locker room at school. You don't need to be a conservative Christian to have concerns about teenagers being placed on puberty-blocking drugs and then cross-sex hormones. Many Americans, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of their religious beliefs, think that there's something wrong with giving a high school girl testosterone.
The faculty includes a number of Christian heavy hitters, including Janet and Craig Parshall.
Every law, every piece of legislation has a moral underpinning, and below that is a worldview of who God is and who we are in our relationship with Him.
Still, Janet Parshall says these candidates will face extra hurdles due to a growing perception that Christianity is outdated and narrow-minded.
So now imagine being a political candidate who has a bibliocentric worldview and has to push their message through the grid of the secular press.
And she adds winning may not always be God's purpose.
Getting your message across is marvelous, but don't ever forget the people to whom you are giving that message. Your first and most important role is ambassador for Christ.
Benjamin says the course is convicting him to check his ego.
Who are you really doing this for? Are you doing this for yourself? Are you doing this for the people? Or are you doing this for Jesus?
Lara Lee Cunningham learned about the training while reading a CBN News article about the center's annual Statesman Award.
Just excited about this program preparing Christians to fight for Jesus, because truly we are becoming a minority as far as it pertains to our voice, not having a voice.
I don't see how you can say that you love God and not fight for this country.
Craig Parshall says these candidates offer time-tested truth.
God wants guardrails in governance And the guardrails are the biblical values that he shared with us, and those are eternal, and they're applicable to so many of the issues here in Washington or in local government as well.
But the skills these future candidates are learning is giving them their best shot to win. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Capitol Hill.
After the break, a look at 4th of July celebrations and what the president had to say.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Americans will most likely continue their Independence Day celebrations through the weekend, but it will be hard to beat the events held at the nation's capital on July 4th. The Salute to America birthday party for the United States included lots of red, white, and blue, music, and some impressive flyovers. President Trump joined the celebration, praising America's military for ensuring our freedoms and our home front throughout our nation's history and for generations to come.
The future belongs to the brave, the strong, the proud, and the free. We are one people chasing one dream and one magnificent destiny. We all share the same heroes, the same home, the same heart, and we are all made by the same Almighty God.
The president also praised other American heroes, from pioneers in space to civil rights. And that is it for this edition of NewsWatch. You can find more on the issues that you care about most at cbnnews.com. And you can watch CBN News programs anytime on our CBN News channel. Plus, tell us what you think about the stories that you've seen here by emailing us at newswatch@cbn.com or talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great